I'm Colin, welcome to learnsomatics. Today I want to get into hip hiking again, but this time in supine and in prone. Supine is when you're lying on your back, prone is when you're lying on your front. So we're going to get into that hiking of the waist in both of those positions and see how that feels. It'll help us free up our waist, our lower back, and a little bit into the hips and legs as well. So give this a try and let me know how you get on. So to begin, as I said, we're going to start just laying flat out on our back. So legs aren't bent this time. Take your hands, put them on your hips. And what I want you to focus on in doing this movement is the hips as opposed to the legs. The legs are going to move, but our focus is much more on what our hips are doing. The legs are attached to the hips, and that's why they're going to move. We're going to deliberately move our hips, and that's going to move the legs, if that makes sense. What do I mean by that? Okay, so for example, in this position, I'm going to draw my left hip here, the bony part of my left hip, so I can feel what's happening. I'm going to draw it up to my left armpit. So what does that look like? Okay, so here I go, I'm dragging it up, and now I can feel there's a tightness in my left waist. My right waist has actually lengthened, and hopefully you can see that actually my right leg has, it's like it's reaching down further past my left leg, and then slowly release. And let's do that again. So I'm just sliding my left hip up, sending my right hip away, and then slowly release. One more time. Left hip slides up, the right hip slides away. And you might find your head is moving a little bit along with this as well. That's fine, you can let that happen. And then slowly release. So this up and down movement of the hips is part of walking. It's one of the things that happens in our hips when we walk if our waist is free. Okay, so let's do the other side. So we're going to be drawing our right hip up to our right armpit, and our left hip is going to go down, alright? So, drawing the right hip up, and the left hip gets long. And now you see it looks like my left leg is reaching. But I'm not actively doing anything with my legs. My legs are quite relaxed as I do this. And then slowly release. Let's try that again, hiking the right hip up, and the right hip goes away. Sorry, the left hip goes away. Slowly release. And again, sliding the right hip up, left waist gets long, right waist gets short, and then slowly release. If you find this is making your lower back cranky when you're doing this, it's like giving you discomfort in your lower back, you're probably arching your back to do the movement. If that's the case, arch your back on purpose, slowly let it come down, and then do the movement and see if you can't make it feel more like a movement of the waist. So when you draw your right hip up, feel your waist. Is it getting tight? It should be getting tight, and this one will relax and lengthen, and then slowly release. So if your low back gets sore doing this, arch and flatten a couple of times, and then do this movement so that you can differentiate for yourself the difference between arching your back and hiking your hips. Okay, so we've done both sides. Let's real briefly go left and right, back and forth, because obviously when we walk we go left foot, right foot. So we want to be able to go side to side with this movement. So we'll start with the left. I'm going to slide my left hip up, send my right hip away. I'm going to slowly release the left hip down, and then I'm going to start to bring my right hip up. And in a lot of ways it's actually kind of easier to go side to side, it's more natural. Back up with my left hip, right hip goes away. Now up with my right hip, left hip goes away. And when you're doing this, you just want to pay attention to how easy it is to go one side to the other, or if there's any differences. If there's a difference, just keep doing the movement and see if you can't even it out. So kind of let my left hip move away to the same extent that I can let my right hip move away. Again, my legs are relaxed throughout this. They're being pushed and pulled. So my left leg is being pushed that way now because of what's happening in my hips, and my right leg is being pulled up because of what I'm doing with my hips. And my whole body, my whole trunk sort of shifts to accommodate what's happening in the hips. Back and forth, left and right. And then you can sort of make it a little less, smaller movements. you're exaggerating it previously. Now this is probably more akin to what actually happens when you're walking, where it's a bit more subtle. Alright. Once you're done, lay out flat. Well, you're already flat. You rest and notice how that feels in your waist, lower back and legs. Okay, so that's hip hiking in supine, i.e. lying on your back. Let's see what happens when we do it lying on our front. So, lying on our front, rest your hands in front of your forehead, forehead on the hands. So from here, when you're lying on your front like this, your back will tend to be in a little bit of an arch just because of the position. It's a little bit unavoidable. That's fine. We're just going to hike the hips in this position. You will feel it a little more into your lower back when you do it this way. So it'll be in the waist and slightly into the lower back. That's fine, that's what we want. So we're going to begin hiking the right hip. So I'm going to start drawing this hip up. Okay, you can see again the legs are relaxed, it's the hips that are moving. I'm drawing my right hip up to my right armpit, my left hip moves away from my left armpit, and then slowly release and relax. And again, right hip to right armpit. And feel how the waist tightens, the waist and the low back tightens a little, and then slowly release. And we'll do one more. Send the right armpit to the right, right hip to the right armpit, left hip moves away from the left armpit, and then slowly release. Okay, let's change sides. So now I'm going to draw my left hip to my left armpit, and you'll see how my right hip moves away from my right armpit. So it's always this side to side movement. Is one side is contracting, the other side is lengthening. Left hip up, right hip down. Feel the left side waist and back gets tight, and the right side lengthens. Slowly release to rest. One more time. Left hip up, right hip away or down, and slowly release. Okay, just like when we were on our back, we're going to go side to side now, doing the left side and the right side and the left side and the right side. So drawing the right hip up, left waist gets long, then slowly drawing the left hip up, right waist gets long, and going back and forth in this way. So we've done a release by doing each side a couple of times on their own. Now we do them side to side so we can start to coordinate things. And our brain can get a feeling for how they can work together. My feet are sticking to the table a bit, making this a little harder, but that's fine. And you see my head moves a little bit. Now I'm not actively moving my head, it's moving because of what's happening in my hips, in my waist, and in my trunk. Side to side, drawing the left hip up, and releasing that, and drawing the right hip up, and releasing that, drawing the left hip up. And you just want to see how smooth and easy you can make that feel. And relax. Alright, again, once you're done, lay out flat. And see how that feels. That feels really nice in your lower back and in your waist. So give that a try, see if it doesn't make your walking feel more free and loosen up your center of your body there.